Hello, I'm Eric Snodgrass, and thank you for watching this brief ag forecast brought to you by Nutrien Ag Solutions. Let's start in the same place as we did for the in-depth video, and that is a look here at the late Monday afternoon satellite imagery here. And as I kind of rock back and forth, you can see the three main tropical systems we're watching. This would be Fred, already making landfall here as a pretty strong tropical storm with a very expansive cloud shield, already putting down quite a bit of heavy rainfall ahead of its main track. We have the newly named Henry over here, which is at tropical storm strength, and tropical depression Grace. You can see the northern extent of the cloud cover here as it's going toward Cuba. Now, a lot of scattered convection across the south. We're drier in much of the Midwest, western Corn Belt, northern plains, but that's going to change dramatically. We're going to see that change happening first in the position of the smoke. So let's get into talking about all those pieces that are moving here in the near term. We're going to start with the tropics. All right, so the latest updates on each of our tropical cyclones. Fred's max sustained winds right now this afternoon, 60 miles an hour. Henry got up there at 40 miles an hour, making it just barely strong enough to be considered a tropical storm. And Grace, while being weakened as it goes over parts of the island of Hispaniola, is forecast to increase in strength. Kind of one by one real quick here. Fred's main guidance shifted to the west like we talked about last week, and it's now moving in this direction. That's toward the northeast, going over the spine of the Appalachian Mountains. Now that's an area we've seen some drought in, so we're going to get some very heavy rain onto some drier ground here. But just showing you how much rain we're expecting here by the time we just get through, Thursday. This is through Thursday night. There could be a corridor right in through here where we are expecting to have a pretty high probability of greater than 2 inches of rainfall. There will be pockets of 3 to 6 inches and a few places that could get upwards of 10 inches of rainfall, and a lot of that will be aided by the mountains. All right. In terms of wind speed, I like what the National Hurricane Center has here in terms of the extent and probability of having a tropical storm force wind. That would be anything between 39 miles an hour and 73 miles an hour. And while it doesn't extend very far inland, thankfully, there'll be some gusty winds into this area capable of getting, into that range of about 40 to 60 miles an hour. So we'll keep a close eye on that over the next 12 to 24 hours in total. From here, let's look at where Grace is headed. Models have been really consistent taking Grace over the Yucatan into the Bay of Campeche. And this will be an area that I'll watch out for future development. Now, there is a possibility that it takes the more northern track and heads toward southern Texas, but we won't really know that until we get this system here over this part of the Caribbean. So we'll need to wait another day and a half or 2 days before we get a good glimpse as to where that one's going to go. And finally, this is what we've got right now for what was Tropical Depression 8 and been upgraded this afternoon to be named Henry. It's going to kind of orbit around Bermuda and then move like this here in parts of the North Atlantic. Now, of all 80 ensemble members, combining both the GFS and the European, only one of them actually takes it toward North Carolina here, and that's in the GFS. So it appears that the system will stay offshore. Now, let's come back to that smoke idea, because much of what you see in the west here is either air quality, excessive heat, or red flag warning. Now, real quick, flooding down here, Arizona, New Mexico, and this is where we've already extended the flood watches in advance of Fred. But that smoke is what I'm really concerned about here. And we're going to take a look at it in a couple different ways. First of all, there are already storms, a lot of them going right now in parts of the west, producing quite a bit of lightning and possibly igniting some more fires. But just to look at the last few hours here on radar, you can see the scattered convection across the south. And now we've got the center of circulation from Fred moving past, this section of Florida and through here. And it's very interesting that that's back with our last Category 5 strength hurricane to make landfall, Michael. That's exactly where Michael went through as well. So that smoke, though, take a look. What I've done is I've stopped this animation once we get into really late into tomorrow night. And what I want you to notice is, let me just play it for you, okay? If I start to play this, you're going to see that the smoke is coming out of the north at that point. Now, as it starts over, you see it's initially blowing from the west to east. And then as we get through the day tomorrow, notice the shift. And that shift is a part of a broader pattern change that's going to be happening for about the next 10 days for the Pacific Northwest. We actually call it the negative PNA, or Pacific North American pattern. And what it translates into are troughs that keep sliding through the flow coming out of the Gulf of Alaska and coming through the Pacific Northwest. And one of the big consequences of having a negative PNA is they often eject this time of year into the northern plains. So we're going to watch this area for a lot of thunderstorm development and possibly some heavy rain, not only there, but in southern Canada as well. Take a look. Let's blow this up so you can see a little bit better. There we go. Watch the first trough here. This is Monday into Tuesday. There's that shift in winds I talked about, blowing the smoke around. And the models attempt to even cut this off temporarily. Now, last week when we talked about it, this cutoff wasn't fully seen, and therefore the wave ejected quicker into the northern plains, already bringing rain by, for example, Wednesday. But now when we look at it, it's going to take until Thursday and then possibly into Friday before that wave gets picked back up by the flow. It's got a negative tilt to it. That's great for upper level ascent and a lot of storms in this area. Then there's another trough behind it. See it right there? And that one sweeps through over the weekend. Here it is. And then another one comes in behind that. That would be there on Sunday, and it flies through the northwest at that point as well. So if I could just draw over the top of this, the flow is going to do a lot of this over the next several days. And you know that when these troughs dig in, always look on their eastern side for the best chances for some heavy rain. And that's why maybe this map summarizes what we're going to be dealing with here best. Probability through the next 10 days of getting an inch of rain. Fred, Grace, scattered storms in the south, the storms coming here out of Montana, through southern Saskatchewan, through most of southern Manitoba, hitting the northern plains of the United States. We're a bit drier here, and we're drier over the Great Lakes as well. And we're normal to be dry in the western United States. So if I put it all together again, we can now look at the WPC forecast. Again, this comes from the National Weather Service. And what we've got when we stitch it all together are those main pieces. So the waves coming in through here late this week, increase rainfall in Montana, then eject into the northern plains. This will be the corridor I expect to have the wettest conditions. We have the sagging front in through this area, bringing rain to the central plains, the mid-south, and it meets up with Fred, which is here over the next, maybe over the next 60 hours getting into the northeast. Again, this section of the Midwest, upper Midwest and Great Lakes is drier. We're also drier right in through here, but flooding south in Arizona and New Mexico. That map right there has got much of the story painted on it for the next 7 days, so take a good look at this. From here, what I want to do is I want to show you why it's important that this map looks this way, because our latest 40 centimeter or 16-inch soil moisture maps show that that rain is going to be hitting some extremely dry areas in our northern plains and Canadian prairie. And Fred's going to really work hard on eliminating some of the drought issues that are here in the Appalachian Mountains. So this is the main story here that I got to share with you. What I'll be watching most carefully is what's going to happen right in through here. Parts of Nebraska, Iowa, South Dakota, southern Minnesota. Do we get enough moisture in that area with that lingering front to bring in the rainfall? Because by the time we get out there into week 2, the pattern, again, we still have another trough here. This is next Monday. That trough moves through Tuesday into Wednesday, so see it right here. And then as we get out there to day 10, that would be next Thursday. This is what the pattern looks like. Now it's washed out, but there's still a trough feature in through here. And then as we get into the following weekend, so I'm all the way out there on the 27th, 28th, 29th, and now let's get out to the 30th. The ridge tries to reform, but coming out of Alaska is another trough. And this pattern tends to just keep doing this, which is why the week 2 precipitation pattern compared to normal continues to favor above normal precipitation across a broad sector. Do notice that we're drier here, indicating that right now the models are not picking up on another tropical cyclone coming through, which is good to see that that's the way that they're behaving at this point. Now, to go from here and talk about temperatures, this is what I've got for you. I want to first show you the June 1st through August 15th temperature ranks by climate district. And just to point out here that throughout much of the West, this is going to be a record-setting summer in terms of heat. Going back to 1893, any location that has a number 1 in it would be the warmest such time period, June 1st to August 15th on record. Now, the temperature swings that are about to happen are incredible, because the heat that has been in the West, look at what it's done to our stress degree day calculations. You see, when we make this calculation, it's done by counting up every degree above 86 degrees Fahrenheit every day and then adding them up. Some research done by Dr. Elwyn Taylor tells us that anything over 140 can be very stressful and reduce yields for corn. Now what I do is I map it all out every year. Anything that's less than 140 gets a green shading, anything above gets a red. And why it said there's going to be big temperature swings is this area today is extremely hot. I mean, let's just go look at the high temperatures there today. This is what was predicted for today, and we hit this. We hit these triple-digit numbers here. But as we go from Monday into Tuesday, again, a scorcher for the Dakotas. Watch this. By Wednesday and Thursday, we've blasted that warmer air to the north, well, to the east, over the Great Lakes, and replaced it with high temperatures that are 30 degrees colder than the highs that we saw today. When you compare the daytime highs to the change all the way to the nighttime lows, which could be in the 40s, we could have over a 60-degree swing in temperatures in this section of the country from today through Thursday. That heat moves toward the Great Lakes, but overall, it just escapes here into the northeast and the Canadian Maritimes, and we see that going out there through this Sunday, cooler air takes over here. Day 5 through 10. This is what the latest European model suggests. We could see above average temperatures, 3 to 6 degrees above average here, but we're going to stay cooler in the northern plains and Canadian prairies we look out there at that time period. Now, how long does that last? Well, you saw the ridge regain strength. Remember, it came back here. So the west warms back up. And that's not only in the GFS, which is what you're looking at, but it's also in the 12Z ECMWF. Warmth coming back to the northwest at this point, day 10 through 15. Now, what I want to do to finish this video up is talk briefly about the long-range forecast. We're going to do a quick verification. Because over the last month, this is what our precipitation patterns have looked like. Strong southwestern monsoon. Most of the precipitation in the midsection of the country has come on scattered storms. Some of them producing extremely heavy rainfall. We saw that from Kansas City through Illinois, northern Missouri, northern Indiana, and lower Michigan. We saw the heavy rains in this area and a lot of scattered storms over the Cotton Belt as well. But the drought did develop here. We have pockets in here where the dry air combined with the dry soils, every time a storm comes near, it feeds on its local environment. And if there's not enough moisture there, it will fizzle. And we saw that a lot. And we talked about that. Remember, I said, yeah, the models want to make it wet here, but it's going to be a lot of scattered storms. And I just want to remind you, this is what we saw a month ago. Now, overall, models did well here. They did well in through this area. They were too wet here, but certainly picked up on the drier bias to the north. They got the southwestern monsoon. I'd have to tell you that the European ensemble, to be honest, has been doing a pretty decent job at these month-ahead outlooks. It's not at least out of phase and completely backwards. It's not perfect because, remember, the model resolution means it can't pick up on the scattered storm behavior. So please keep that in mind as we think about this. Because over the coming weeks, first of all, we're continuing to see through the next 15 days better upper level support for rising motion here. We see sinking motion across much of the Pacific and rising motion again over the Indian Ocean. So what this means is that as we look out there with the MJO moving over the Indian Ocean toward north of Australia, that's this motion here, our best sinking motion is in the West Pacific. And that all that translates into a forecast which looks like this for the month of September in terms of precip. Now, in the long range, in the in-depth video, I talk about La Nina, its evolution. We play out the forecast all the way through early winter. So take a look at the end of the in-depth video. But where I want to finish on this one is that we do see a lot of green indicating wetter than average conditions through the month of September. But I'm going to say it again. A lot of this is coming in scattered thunderstorms. And remember, these models they're not designed to, on a monthly timescale, pick up on tropical cyclone activity, which is always the biggest wild card. So that's what I'm going to be watching, and I'll report back to you again on Thursday of what we find out. Appreciate your attention. Talk to you then. Thank you.